Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, children. So, this is going to be a story time today, inshallah. So, let's begin. I am your storyteller, Mupeta Mehboob, and today I'm going to tell you a story. But before that, ask you which story would you like to hear the most? So, we could listen to stories of prophets, stories of angels, animals that are mentioned in Quran, and the ants used to speak, and Sulaiman alayhi salam could hear that. And we have the story of the Sahaba, where we get to know many good things. Or we have the stories of Jannah, of all the good people that lived before. Even now, we have so many good stories happening around us. So the stories list is a very long list, and we can select inshallah from any of this. So today, what I want is okay. Let's have a look at all the prophets that are mentioned in Quran. If we start from Adam alayhi salam, it goes all the way till our last prophet, that is Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right. So I'm going to tell you a story from this list today. But before I tell you whose story it is, you have to tell me. There was a prophet who looked at the star and he said, "Is this my Lord?" And he said, "No, this can't be my Lord." So which prophet am I talking about today? Okay, next hint. If you didn't get this right, he looked at the sky and he looked at the moon and he said, "Is this my Lord?" And then he realized, "No, this cannot be my Lord." So, which prophet is this? We do Hajj because we follow the sunnah of this prophet. Which prophet? We also do Sa'i. We run from Safa to Marwa and we drink Zamzam. Which prophet? The last clue is obvious, isn't it? Yes, we are going to listen to the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam today. It's a very interesting story, lots of lessons to learn, and we're going to start from the beginning till Ibrahim alayhi salam built the Kaaba. I can ask you questions at the end, so be prepared. Listen to the story, and there will be an activity right at the end which I want you to do, inshallah. And you can tell the story to some other people after you have listened to this, inshallah. Okay? And if you want, you can also put it on our Facebook. If you have really practiced the story very well, we want to listen to you on Facebook, inshallah. Okay, many years ago, many thousands of years ago, there was a tribe. They used to worship idols. This was before Islam, before Prophet ﷺ had come. This was before Musa ﷺ had come. This was before Isa ﷺ had come. Before all these people, Ibrahim ﷺ had to do his job. So his people, his friends, his families, his uncles, all these people, they used to worship statues. And Ibrahim alayhi salam's father, he himself was a sculptor. So he used to make statues out of rock or wood, whatever. And Ibrahim alayhi salam, when he was very small, he used to play with these statues while his father was busy making them. So he always saw them as a thing of enjoyment, a thing of play. So when he was asked to worship these statues that the other people used to worship, he didn't like it. He thought, how can I worship these statues? So one day he was contemplating, he was thinking deep, and he looked at the stars in the sky. And he thought, these look very beautiful and powerful. They look so far above, as if they're watching us. Are these gods? He thought. But then he told himself, no, these can't be our gods. No. And then he saw at the moon. He looked at the moon and he thought, is this the god? Because it looked bigger and brighter. Is this the god? And then something inside him told, no, this cannot be the god. And, and the third thing that he saw in the morning was the bright sky lit with sunlight. And he looked at the sun, and because sun is so powerful, sun gives us life. In terms of everything depends on the sunlight. The plants grow because there is sunlight. We eat the food that the plants produce, and plants can only produce if they have taken energy from sun. So the basic source that Allah has created for the life to be sustained is sun. So Allah commands the sun, and rest everything on earth, they make benefit out of sun. So he looked at sun and he thought, oh, is this the god? But sun goes down every evening. How can that be the god? So Ibrahim alayhi salam never found anything that was around him quite convincing to be God. And he thought, these are all creations. Allah has created these things. How is it possible for the creations to be taken as God? So he said, no, I'm not taking them as God. He tried to tell his people that please understand that the statues are not your gods, and they didn't like it. Days passed by, and then one day the were going out for some celebration. They were going out of the village for some celebration. Everyone was going. So they asked Ibrahim alayhi salam, why don't you come along? And Ibrahim alayhi salam excused himself, no, I don't want to. So he stayed back and everybody left. So after the people left, he went to the temple where these people used to worship these statues. So he went inside the temple and that in front of these so-called gods, um, very nice things were kept, things to eat, things to decorate. So Ibrahim alayhi salam told the statues that, why don't you eat now? So all this food people have put for you. So why don't you eat? Now would the statues answer? No, they won't reply. So Ibrahim alayhi salam took an axe and he all the statues except one, which was the chief statue, the biggest statue, the main god that they believed. He left that and he broke every other statue. The next day, when the priest came back to the to the temple, they saw that all the statues were broken. How would they feel now? They got very angry. How did this happen? Who did this to our statues, to our gods? So someone said, well, this man here called Ibrahim, he stayed back. He never came with us to the celebrations. Ask him, he might know. So they called Ibrahim alayhi salam and they asked, do you know what happened here? Do you know who broke the statues? We have a feeling that you have done it. So Ibrahim alayhi salam said, well, why don't you ask the God that is standing, that is not broken? Maybe he broke all the statues. That's the reason he's not broken. So this infuriated the people even more. It made them even more angry. They said that, how do you think that the statue will speak? So Ibrahim alayhi salam said, well, you know the statue won't speak. Then why do you consider him as a god? And when someone is trying to talk sense, what happens with some people? They get even more angry, isn't it? They don't like to be corrected. So they got even more angry. And they said, how dare you? We're going to burn you alive. So everybody in the village, they started collecting wood, branch, wood, anything, any wood that they could find, they started collecting to build a huge fire. Now, who has created the fire? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, isn't it? And who has created Ibrahim alayhi salam? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, when he was about to be thrown into the fire, an angel came and asked Ibrahim alayhi salam, do you need any help? And Ibrahim alayhi salam said, no. Allah is sufficient for us. So he says, Allah is going to save me. I don't have to worry. So look at his yaqeen. When we are in some trouble, what do? We really get worried and we panic, isn't it? And we wish that somebody comes and helps us. But Ibrahim alayhi salam's yaqeen on Allah, on his own creator, was so strong. In spite of a huge fire in front of him, he knew that his creator will help him. So when we lose our items, or we miss our school bus, or something is stolen, whatever the case may be, if we also train ourselves like Ibrahim alayhi salam, and we tell ourselves that no, Allah is enough for me and Allah is going to take care of my affairs, Allah will definitely help us, isn't it? So Allah ordered, when Ibrahim alayhi salam was thrown into the fire, Allah ordered the fire to cool down. So the fire didn't harm Ibrahim alayhi salam, even though he was thrown into it. So people assume that Ibrahim alayhi salam might be burned by now. But when the whole fire burnt and died out, Ibrahim alayhi salam came out without any harm. So these people who were witnessing all this, some of them brought yaqeen and some got even more angry. And they said, okay, we go to the king now. This is enough. He has been poisoning our minds, destroying our gods, and talking of some other god. So let us take him to the king. This king was not a nice man. He thought himself to be the god. So when Ibrahim alayhi salam was brought to him, he said, what are you talking about? I am the God. So Ibrahim alayhi salam says, no, I'm talking about the God that gives us life and takes the life. So this king said, how difficult is that for you? So he asked his men to bring two of his prisoners. And one prisoner, he asked his people to kill him. So one prisoner was killed. And when the second prisoner was about to be killed, the king said, no, wait, I spare his life. And he told Ibrahim alayhi salam, see, it wasn't that difficult. I give life and I take life. So Ibrahim alayhi salam says, no, this is not what I'm talking about. My Lord is the one who makes it rise from the east. Can you make it rise from the west? He asked the king. And of course, no human can do what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can do. So the difficulties that Ibrahim alayhi salam had to face after this got even bigger and bigger, and he tried to call people to the right path, but it was very difficult for him. So Allah ordered to migrate, and along with him, Lut alayhi salam came, and Sarah, who was his wife, Ibrahim alayhi salam's wife. So these two people accompanied Ibrahim alayhi salam and they moved out of that place. Many years passed by. Lut alayhi salam and Ibrahim salam chose different paths, and after many years, Ibrahim alayhi salam was blessed with a baby called Ismail alayhi salam. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed him with a baby, Ibrahim alayhi salam was very happy. But Allah ta'ala wanted to test Ibrahim alayhi salam again. So he asked Ibrahim alayhi salam to take Ismail alayhi salam and his mother Hajra to a barren place, to a very dry desert, and leave them there. So, with dates and some water, Ibrahim alayhi salam took Hajra alayhi salam and Ismail alayhi salam to a barren place and he left them there. So, Bibi Hajra asked, "Why are you leaving us here? There's nobody around. Is this because Allah has commanded you to do this?" Ibrahim alayhi salam says, "Yes, this is Allah's command." So, what do we usually do? A lesson for us here is we need to trust in Allah. Hajra alayhi salam didn't panic. She didn't say, "Oh, am I going to live here all alone with a small baby? No, 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 take me along. You can't leave me here." She went quiet. And Ibrahim alayhi salam also was very strong and he didn't fail his test. He didn't say, "Okay, okay, let's go back. I'm going to take you back with me." He left them there and he turned back. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted something very beautiful to happen here. And He also wanted to test Ibrahim alayhi salam. Allah doesn't want difficulty for us, He wants good for us. But He wants to see who loves Allah and who obeys Allah the most. So Ibrahim alayhi salam passed this test. And in this barren area where there was no water, no place to take shelter, no other person, Hajar alayhi salam was looking for some water because her water ran out. So she kept looking for water and she started running from one point of the mountain to the other point. This is what we do when we go for Hajj. She went to the top of a mountain called Safa, and from there she came down and she went to the other top of the mountain called Marwa. She did this 7 times and she was running in the hope of finding someone. So if you go right to the top of a place, you can see better, isn't it? You can see far from that point. So she was trying to see if there is anybody who lives around or there is any water around. So she did this 7 times, up, down, up, down, up, down. And she was looking for some water for her baby. And then she heard a voice. And then she said, "Whoever it is, if you can please help me and my baby." So it was Jibreel alayhi salam, and he dug a small hole and the water started gushing out. This was Zamzam. And Hajar alayhi salam quenched her thirst, and there was enough water. I mean, this spring, even till date, hasn't dried out. Subhanallah. So this was the plan of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. After many, 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 many days, there was passing by. And from a distance, they saw a bird flying in a certain direction. A bird flying in a direction means either it has its nest there or it has seen water. So the tribe decided to check the place where the bird was flying so that they might also get some water. So they went in the direction where the bird was going and they found enough water there, and they also found Hajar alayhi salam. They asked her permission if they could stay, and she said, "Yes, you are welcome to stay here." So Ismail alayhi salam grew among these people, and he learned the language, Arabic language. After many, Ibrahim alayhi salam felt like seeing his son, so he came back to Makkah. But it was a different place. There were people there, there was water there. So he came and he met his son Ismail alayhi salam and he was very happy. After some time, while he was sleeping, Ibrahim alayhi salam has a dream. And in that dream, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives him another test. And what was this test? He tells Ibrahim alayhi salam to sacrifice his son. Now, he thinks, no, no, it's just a dream. But the dream keeps repeating. So Ibrahim alayhi salam understands that this is what Allah really wants. And he goes and he tells Ismail alayhi salam that I have been asked by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to sacrifice you. Is it okay with you? Ibrahim alayhi salam says, sorry, Ismail alayhi salam says that if this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has asked you to do, then you would find me amongst the patient ones. So you will not see me running away or complaining or crying. So I'll be patient. So Ibrahim alayhi salam took him away, and when he was about to sacrifice Islam, he heard a voice, and it said that your sacrifice has been accepted. And in place of Ismail alayhi salam, Allah kept a ram. And since that date, Muslims sacrifice a ram or an animal that is halal for us. In the name of Allah, we do it. Yeah. So that was his test, and Ibrahim alayhi salam as well as Ismail alayhi salam, they both passed the test. So what is the lesson that we have to learn? Again, this is about trust in Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants the best for us. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has very, very big plans that we cannot see. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked Ibrahim alayhi salam to leave his wife and son in that barren area, he had huge plans. Now, when we go to Kaaba, when we go to Makkah, see how Makkah is now. At one time, it was completely barren. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it a flourishing, thriving place. So He has His plans, and we need to have yaqeen in Him. And the last thing that Ibrahim alayhi salam, along with Ismail alayhi salam, they did was building of Kaaba. Allah showed him the place, and they built the house of Allah. And Ismail alayhi salam helped him in it. Jibril alayhi salam brought a stone from Jannah. And what is the name of the stone? Hajr Aswad. So that is still placed in the walls of Kaaba, and we kiss the stone if we get an opportunity, if we are close to the walls. Otherwise, we don't. Yeah. So this was the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam and Ismail alayhi salam. Now, the first lesson that we have to take from the story is when he looked at the star, when he looked at the moon and the sun, every human that is born is a Muslim. So Allah has given the aql to everybody to look at the nature around him and think for himself, is this something to be worshipped? Because if we start worshipping the creation, then would the creator like it? So Ibrahim alayhi salam contemplated on these things, and the lesson that we can learn from him is we also need to use our aql. He didn't follow his father, he didn't follow his people, he didn't bow down to the king's threats. So he followed his heart. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given all of us that wisdom where we can see what is wrong and right. When you see somebody stealing something, what does your heart tell you? Is it a good thing or a bad thing? It's a bad thing. But if we still follow that action, then we are helping the shaitan to win over us. So Ibrahim alayhi salam did not follow what his people did, but he uh, listened to his heart, and he was on the right path. Okay, so we have an activity now. This activity will help us to remember the story in sequence, inshallah. So all these images will help you in retelling the story. So if you look at the images and you tell me which image should come first in the sequence of the story. So if you have to tell the story, this image where Ibrahim alayhi salam's father used to make statues, and then the stars Ibrahim alayhi salam looked at the stars, the moon, and the sun, and he thought, this could not be my God. Then what happened? One day, when the people went to celebrate, you can pause the story, you can do the sequence yourself, and inshallah, I'm sure you will get it correct. So, okay. So one day when they went out to celebrate, Ibrahim alayhi salam went into the temple and he smashed all the statues. When the people came back, they were very angry and they decided to burn him alive. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered the fire to cool down, to become cool. So they took him to the king, and the king said that he himself is the God, and he called two prisoners and showed that he can give life and take life. But Ibrahim alayhi salam said that that is not how it is. My Lord is also the one who makes the sun rise from the east. Can you do that? Can you make the sun rise from the west? So Ibrahim alayhi salam decided to migrate, and after migration, when he had a baby after many years, the first test that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him was to leave the baby and Hajar alayhi salam in a barren area where there was no water. So when Hajar alayhi salam was looking for water, Allah sent Zamzam. Allah sent Jibril alayhi salam to um, give her water of Zamzam. After some time, the tribe that was passing by, they saw a bird. It's not exactly a crow, but a bird that was flying in a specific direction. They followed that direction and they found the well of Zamzam there. They settled down there. The next test that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave Ibrahim alayhi salam was to sacrifice Ismail alayhi salam um, in the name of Allah. Ismail alayhi salam agreed to that test and they both passed it because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent a ram in place of Ismail alayhi salam. And instead of Ismail alayhi salam, a ram was sacrificed in the name of Allah. At the end, Ibrahim alayhi salam and Ismail alayhi salam built the Kaaba that we still visit, Alhamdulillah. And we um, perform our Hajj rituals there. So this was the story, and inshallah, if you practice it, if you remember the sequence, you can post it on our Facebook page, connect with the creator, and you can also join our WhatsApp group where you will inshallah get further notifications of the online sessions or of recordings or future programs that we want to do, inshallah. Okay. Allahu khair. I hope you like the story. Please do pass it on to others so that it becomes a source of sawab jariyah for you, inshallah. And we would like to hear stories from you too, inshallah. Okay? May Allah accept it from all of us, all the good that we do, and may Allah forgive us for all our shortcomings. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.